Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Tony. Woo.
Hello, and welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast. I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. This episode is one that I have been really looking forward to recording because I know how many people are going to benefit from this. I mean, really, we live in a society today where we are all super pressed for time, or we're just like physically exhausted or tired. We have multiple responsibilities, and sometimes we just don't feel like cooking, or we want something easy, or you know what, we just straight up just like rather not make a large, lavish, extravagant dish, and we just want something simple. So anyways, if you know me, I'm super busy, super active, and I like to keep things super simple. So although I enjoy cooking and I will sometimes do something a little bit more extravagant, for the most part, it's pretty simple. And most of the time I choose the path of least resistance when it comes to food, because at this point I have a very healthy relationship with it. I understand what fuels my body, and I rather utilize my time working with clients or going out into the world and like speaking and doing all these fun things. So my kind of go-to breakfast, lunch, and dinner options are super easy and super basic, and they really don't require much prep. Although there are times where I will take advantage of that. I wanted to teach you guys the healthy meal or snack ideas that take like literally none of your time. And you don't even have to cook. Some of these you do have, there's some kind of cooking, but for the most part, it's like little to no cooking whatsoever. So I thought the best way to kind of break this down was to really talk about breakfast ideas, lunch ideas, snack ideas, and then dinner ideas. But you guys know that I also, I mean, maybe you don't know, but now you know, that very often for dinner, for breakfast, I'll have a traditional quote-unquote dinner food. Like the other day, I totally had my leftover salad with salmon on top for breakfast. And then other times for dinner, I have like a breakfast option. And then sometimes my snacks maybe look like more like mini meals. And so, you know, the thought of having 3 meals a day and snacks in between, that doesn't always work for everyone. Everyone is very different, and that's definitely for another podcast. I don't want to get off on a tangent, but that being said, I'm going to try to stick to what your traditional breakfast ideas are, your traditional lunches, snacks, and dinners, etc. Okay. So, a quick and easy breakfast option is usually something like you could easily take like a whole grain waffle or a rice cake, and you can put a little bit of peanut butter or almond butter on it, top it with maybe some banana or some like fresh berries, and then you can have that with a side of, say, like a Greek yogurt or hard-boiled eggs. Hard-boiled eggs, obviously, you would have had to prepare it at some point, but you could also buy eggs that are already hard-boiled. You could also pair that with maybe just like a protein shake, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like a smoothie that you get out the blender and you do that. But you could just get like, if you have like a protein powder and maybe some like unsweetened almond milk, you shake that up and you have that on the side of your whole grain waffle with your peanut butter that's topped with your fruit. So if you haven't listened to, I think I've made other episodes about like snacks and meals and stuff. And so there like actually are ways to differentiate between a meal and a snack. Like a meal typically is like closer to an average of like 400 calories, where a snack is more of an average of like, 250 calories or less. And then like a meal will have at least 3 food groups present, whereas a snack usually just has like 1 to 2. So I really try to get people away from food rules, but if that helps you to identify why I'm suggesting to do the whole grain waffle with peanut butter, piece of fruit, and some sort of protein, whether it be Greek yogurt or hard-boiled egg or like a protein powder. It could also be like a piece of chicken or turkey roll-up, but like I said, I'm trying to keep this like traditional for you guys. It's because like a whole grain waffle is going to have carbohydrates, peanut butter or nut butter is going to have a healthy fat. Your fruit is also going to have carbohydrates. It's just a different type. And then your yogurt has carbs, but it also has protein. Your eggs has protein. It also has fat. And then your protein powder, typically, if they're low carbohydrate, it'll just be straight protein and some maybe a little bit of something else. But so that's an example of how I created that breakfast idea, is because it has multiple food groups present. Now, that takes very little requirement. So if you are the gluten sensitivity or gluten allergy, then you could get a gluten-free whole grain waffle, or you can do something like a rice cake. That's what I do as an alternative. Another fun thing that I usually do is I'll take unsweetened almond milk, I'll take a scoop of my protein powder, and I'll shake that up, and then I will put it in something. I'll put it with my Cheerios, or like I use rice puffs if you wanted to do rice checks, or if you wanted to do something like Total or something like that in your cereal. You now have this is more for people who are dairy free or dairy sensitive or plant based, because cow's milk has 8 grams of protein per cup. Which is a little bit more than, say, like almond milk, which doesn't have, has very little. So the protein powder actually helps increase the protein. So if you did like a half a scoop of protein powder, usually most protein powders, 1 scoop is about 10 grams. So if you do a half a scoop, it's like as if you're getting the equivalent of what you would if you were to have a cup of milk, of cow's milk, right? So it's all about swapping that out. If you did the full scoop, then you're going to have that 20 grams of protein in the morning, which is really, really important, which I think I definitely have talked about that before. We want to make sure we're getting enough protein in the morning. Most people get enough towards the end of the day, but struggle getting it in the morning. So that's definitely an option. Other things I'll add to the cold cereal would be like milled flax seeds, so like 1 or 2 teaspoons of that, and like ground cinnamon. And then I might put some nuts in there, or I might put some fruit in there. And then you could also use hot cereal, obviously, like oatmeal. If you guys follow me on Instagram, like a really common kind of go-to breakfast option for me, or meal option, especially post-workout, is a half a cup of oats, 1 cup of unsweetened almond milk, a half a scoop of protein powder, 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, and then I'll sometimes put like a teaspoon of milled flax seeds and some cinnamon. And that's pretty common for me, something that I will put together. So that is a great option if you're looking for one, and that doesn't require much prep, especially, fun fact, I didn't tell you this part. If you're looking, obviously you have to microwave it, right, to make it come together. But I've also, instead of using the almond milk, I've also just put it with water, and I use my Keurig. So I just like don't put the coffee in there, obviously, and I just like, as if I was going to brew like tea or hot water, and I just have that go through. And that's a really great way if you want it kind of not to have it, that would be more like a warm temperature, not very hot. And the other option is just mixing all those things together, leaving it in your refrigerator, and the next day you have what's called overnight oats. So super, super easy. So if you notice, there's many different combinations here, many different ways in which we can have breakfast, and that's just a few, right? Lunch ideas. So I'm a big fan of salad kits. The only downside to some salad kits is they tend to have like way too much dressing than you actually need. So I always just teach people the fork method. If you have not learned about the fork method, please go to my Instagram, tips_with_Tony, so you can check out that video about the fork method. It's like a really common thing I teach my clients, and it's really, truly amazing. So use the fork method with your salad kits. And then also the other thing about salad kits is they usually don't have enough protein. They're usually just mostly vegetables, and then maybe they'll have like maybe some like seeds or some like dried cranberries or something like that, maybe even some cheese or something. But there's usually no type of protein to put on top. So I recommend getting those tuna packets. That requires no prep at all. If you're home and you have a can opener, then you could do a can of tuna. There's canned chicken. You can throw some beans on there from a can, just wash off the salt in a strainer, and that's going to be more so a carbohydrate, but salad's also very low in carbs, so that's fine. But it will have protein as well, especially if you're someone who's vegan. That's a good option, even with if you're vegetarian, a sprinkle of cheese. You could always throw berries on there. Berries is a fruit that requires no cooking, no cutting up. You just got to wash them. You could also throw tofu on top. Tofu or tempeh, for those who are vegan, is a great option. And then maybe instead of getting like a salad kit, you could also just get like a bag of lettuce. So a bag salad, like a bag of lettuce. You can get a bag of, say, shredded carrots. You can get a carton of cherry tomatoes. And you can make your own salad and then throw on any of those proteins. You could even do turkey cold cuts or like, ham or buffalo chicken or something like that. I mean, obviously we know that lots of processed meats, too much processed meats isn't always going to be beneficial, but if it's just a small, portion over your salad and you get the one that maybe is lower in sodium, that's going to be really great. You could always throw in like a half of an avocado or, like a tablespoon of hummus, or even some like snap peas. So if you notice the vegetable choices, cherry tomatoes, shredded carrots, snap peas, they don't require, or shredded cabbage, they don't require any cutting up. They don't require anything other than you washing the cherry tomatoes. And everything else you could just add to your salad. So you don't even have to buy a salad kit. You can just buy all the ingredients and make your own kind of salad. So that's really great. Firm tofu is also a great thing to add on top. Tempeh is a great thing to add on top. And like I said, something like avocado and hummus, you really don't need to do much to it. You just cut it open, you put half in there, save the pit, put the pit in the other half, keep it there, keep it in the fridge. It will stay fresher for longer. And then you could also, with those options, you could also have that as on the side. You can take your snap peas, you can dip it in the hummus, and you can have it on the side of your salad. And that's a really great, quick and easy lunch option. Also, there are some like canned soups that could be You could do a soup and a salad, or even, a half a sandwich with a side salad, or a soup and a half of a sandwich or something like that. I mean, having a sandwich every day and having, whole grain bread is totally fine. It's just some people are kind of looking for other alternatives. I think that's like an obvious one of people that already know. And then sometimes if you don't put enough vegetables on the sandwich, or you don't have a side of some type of vegetables, then it might not be the healthiest alternative. So you could always do a sandwich. Lettuce wraps are a great option too if you are someone who is monitoring your bread intake, or your carbohydrate intake. So you could always do lettuce wraps as an option, and maybe you want to have something like popcorn with it, so your starch is there. So you have your popcorn, and then you could do something in like lettuce wraps. That's a good option. Another option is corn tortilla or whole grain tortilla. Some wraps are fine. Some wraps tend to be higher. Some wraps, to be honest, can have as much carbohydrates as like a bagel. And then sometimes they're very low in fiber and high in sodium. And so sometimes wraps aren't the best option, but there are some wraps out there that are higher in fiber. So if it's high in fiber, it's going to be at least 3 grams per serving. And I would say, you want to probably keep the carbohydrates. This is hard. This is where I try to be mindful. I don't want to keep people very individualized. But like a slice of bread is usually going to have about 15 grams of carbohydrates. So some wraps can have closer to like 45 to 60 grams, which is really equivalent to like 4 slices of bread, which to be honest could be fine, but it depends upon what else you're having that day or what else you're having with that meal, which is important. So apparently every time I do these episodes, I go on tangents and I'm like thinking of all the other points I could be making, that I'm trying to like make notes, but also keep you guys centered and focused. Like I just realized I talked about cereal options, and didn't mention the fact that like the cereal options that I choose, if you notice, they're very low in sugar, very, very low in sugar. And they usually have some type of fiber. Not always, not all of your grains have to be whole grain. So for example, my Rice Puff cereal is like basically like air. But it's also a great just kind of option for me when I am feeling kind of hungry, kind of want to snack, kind of want to eat something, but don't really want anything gigantic. So like Rice Puffs are great, but there's very little fiber in that. But cereals are great also in the sense that they're usually fortified with some like B vitamins and iron and stuff like that. So it's always a good option. Things to look for your cereals, definitely. I usually tell people to look for things that are under double digits when it comes to sugar. Same thing I didn't mention with like your Greek yogurt. Some yogurt in general can be really high in sugar. So I tell people to look for under double digits. Even better than that would be less than 6 grams of sugar per serving, because sugar can easily add up. I definitely have an episode about that. You don't need any added sugar, you're sweet enough or something like that. So it's in the way beginning if you want to go back and listen to that. All right, so going back on track. Snack ideas. So your snack could easily be like a mini meal, something like a smaller portion of any of the things I just described. But if you wanted trying to think of like some good snack options that require like little prep, you just buy the bag. There's very often you could do like a 100 calorie nut packs. So like trail mix or almonds or walnuts. If you want something like salty and sweet, they have like the cocoa roasted almonds by Blue Diamond. You could also get like bars, like Kind bar or an RX bar. They're kind of like salty sweet. Those are great options. And the Kind granola bars probably aren't my favorite. I think a lot of people go for granola bars as snacks, but by the end, like it ends up being a lot of added sugar and it's just not as substantial. So I usually tell people to go for more like the nut and seed Kind bar. Those are better. Protein bars, you could do a Quest bar, Build One bars. What are other protein bar options that are good? The One bars are fine. You could just take your protein powder, shake it with some milk, and just have that as a snack. If you didn't have your Greek yogurt earlier that day, you could have that as a snack. Skinny Pop or like any popcorn that just doesn't have a ton of butter, or even sugar. Some like a kettle corn might have added sugar. Those are good options. Roasted chickpeas or even like the chickpea puffs. They're like basically chickpea puffs like taste like cheese doodles, but they're made from chickpeas. It's amazing. Vienna is a great brand for that. They also make roasted chickpeas that have all different flavors as well. And then the Bada Bean snacks. Bada Bean, I'm not sure if you can get them in the stores, but you can definitely get them online. And I'm pretty sure you can get them on like Amazon and stuff like that. But they're basically like fava beans that have been roasted and then flavored in some way, like sour cream and onion or barbecue and whatever. So it's like instead of having chips, you're having something crunchy, but there's more nutrients there. There's more fiber, there's more fat, healthy fat, there's more protein for like the same amount of calories. So that's what I think a lot of people like don't realize. It's not that chips and pretzels and those snacky items aren't like, they're not really like unhealthy, or less healthy, but it's just the amount that you consume. So if you like 13 tortilla chips, which are great. Corn tortilla is like a great whole grain, believe it or not. But for 13 tortilla chips, for it to be 130 calories, for it to mostly just be like something that tastes good versus 130 calories worth of like roasted chickpeas or the Bada Bean snacks, for example, are going to have like triple the amount of fiber and protein, and filling. It's going to make you feel fuller because of the fiber and the protein and the healthy fat than like the 13 chips would, right? So that's why, there's a time and place for everything, but I definitely think that that's something to think about. Other snack options that don't require any cooking or preparing, fruit. Hello, except obviously the fruit that you have to peel is a different story, but pears are great, apples are great, bananas are like, yeah, you gotta peel it, but like it doesn't take much. Cheese sticks are a good option. And then often, guys, like if you find yourself, if you just have like one of these and you're still hungry, like pair it together. So instead of just having a piece of fruit, maybe have a piece of fruit and a cheese stick, right? Maybe on top of your Greek yogurt, instead of just having the Greek yogurt, you maybe sprinkle some of the cereal from your morning or something like that to give it that crunch. I know often people will put granola, which tends to be okay if it's a healthier sort of granola, but just be mindful that some people use granola as like breakfast and they end up putting just stick to the serving size. It's usually like anywhere from like 1/8 of a cup to like 1/4 of a cup. Granola is one of those things that can be easily calorically dense. If you're trying to lose weight, right? So, but if you're worried about like athletic performance and you want a good, or maybe even you're trying to gain weight, granola could be a really great thing to help you with that. But just if you wanted, I'm just thinking of ideas with your Greek yogurt to kind of spice it up a bit. Maybe instead of putting granola on top, you could do like, even, believe it or not, even something like Honey Nut Cheerios, although the sugar is going to be higher, it's actually probably going to be better because you need a lot of Cheerios to actually equivalent to the same amount of what you would do if you were to use the granola. So that's just a good option. All right, dinner. So I think most of you are probably like, oh yeah, I kind of know all those. Those are easy. But like dinner seems to be the thing that most people end up buying takeout or ordering in and, or going out to eat or whatever. And that's the part that they struggle with the most. So if you have not listened to my other episodes before, some of this stuff might sound surprising to you. And if that's the case, just send me a message and ask any follow-up questions. But for some of you who've been listening for a while, then you know that frozen veggies are my favorite thing, okay? If your freezer is not stocked up with frozen vegetables, then you are probably not eating any vegetables. Let's just be honest. Because most people buy vegetables with all the intentions of preparing them, never prepare them, they go bad, then they don't eat them. And then they're like, oh, why even buy them? And then they don't eat any vegetables. So frozen vegetables are always going to be a great option because you could add that to anything. If you decided I have no time and I just want to make eggs for dinner, awesome. Totally a big advocate for breakfast for dinner, right? Eggs could totally be for dinner. Now, if it's just eggs, then it's probably not going to be as nutritious as if you made some eggs with some spinach and then maybe had it inside of like a corn tortilla to balance it out, right? So you can do like the frozen bag spinach. Obviously with frozen veggies, you want to just make sure that it's just spinach or just broccoli. If there's all these other additives and preservatives in it, then it's not going to be as fresh as if you were to buy it from the store and cook it and prepare it yourself, right? Another thing you can do, you can microwave potatoes. Sweet potatoes are something I microwave quite often when I don't feel like waiting for the oven to go on, especially in the summer when it gets really hot. I don't want to put the oven on, so I will microwave a potato. It takes usually about 7 to 10 minutes depending on the size, but you could also boil potatoes. Oh yeah, you have to wait for the water to boil, but it takes about like 7-10 minutes for it to actually finish, and that's like super, super easy. You don't really need to season it or anything. I think they just taste good as they are. And then you could pair that with, say, like a rotisserie chicken. Go buy rotisserie chicken if you don't feel like cooking or preparing anything. Maybe you have a family of 4 and there's the other parts of the chicken, aren't the worst thing. The breast is going to be the leanest part. And then anytime you do have other parts of the meat, obviously the darker is going to carry more fat. But so try to eat most of the breast and take the skin off and let the family eat the rest. Or even if you did want to have the other pieces, just be mindful of that when you're balancing out kind of the rest of your proteins throughout the day. Maybe keep them super lean or something like that. All right, so that's always a really good option. You could always leave. I very often will have frozen turkey burgers or chicken burgers. A good brand for turkey burgers is Bubba. A good brand for chicken burgers is by Great American. Those are really awesome because sometimes I don't feel like cooking, so I will just pull that out and technically, I still gotta get the pan out, but I don't need to make much. So that is always a really good option. So frozen veggie burgers too are great. Trader Joe's has the pea protein veggie burgers. So veggie burgers are like a hot topic right now. Once again, probably for another episode, and I believe it's going to be mentioned in one of the interviews that I do, especially, I'm going to put it on my list with the plant-based dietitian, or she's not a dietitian, but has her certification in plant-based nutrition. I don't know, she's coming on the podcast, and we're definitely going to talk about veggie burgers because they are not always the most nutritious things, but they sometimes fall into the place of being plant-based for the person or being vegan or vegetarian. So it is aligned with that value, but when it comes to the actual nutrition of it and you take a look at it, it's probably not the best thing. So I think I'm going to do a whole other episode about that. But in the meantime, I will say that pea protein veggie burgers are great if you're trying to get an alternative protein source. If not, some veggie burgers are okay when it comes to maybe getting, like Dr. Prager's makes a veggie burger where it's like mostly like, I think, peas and corn and carrots and stuff like that. And so that's great in the sense of like, it's a great starch to add to your dinner, but I wouldn't necessarily have it as a protein alternative. But anyways, that's for another day. But anyways, so you can make a veggie burger, you can make a protein burger, turkey burger, you can make a chicken burger. You could even take ground turkey. I know now I'm getting into more of like cooking, but I mean, like, it really doesn't take much to just saute some like ground turkey or ground chicken, or even like ground beef, or choosing like a lean beef like venison. Venison is deer. Bison is like a lean ground beef. You could even just like saute that in a pan, and you don't even need to add oil. And just throw in like garlic powder and like a no salt seasoning like Mrs. Dash or something like that. And you can add that and like cook some kale, steam it really quickly. Maybe get a spaghetti squash, and instead of putting it in the oven, microwave it. And that could be your starch. So you could have the spaghetti squash, which is your starch. You could have your ground turkey, which is your protein, and you can saute some cooked kale. Or if you don't feel like getting out the stove, doing anything on top of the stove, you take out those frozen veggie bag, and you mix that up and you add it to there. There's definitely frozen kale that you could that you can microwave. I'm starting to get like all over the place because I thought this was going to be a quick episode, and now here I am rambling with so much information. Another option is a shrimp cocktail. Very often you can buy shrimp cocktail. So you could I'll get the frozen bag of shrimp that's peeled, deveined, and deshelled. So it's basically like shrimp cocktail. But when it goes on sale, all I'll do is I'll take that, get it the frozen one, I'll defrost it, and then for example, I did cook it with like garlic and oil, and now I have it for the week. But before I put it and actually cooked it, if I didn't want to cook it, I didn't have to. It was already pre-cooked. I didn't even meaning cooking it as in seasoning it and heating it up, right? But it was already, if you can buy frozen shrimp that's been cooked, deveined, and deshelled. You can buy shrimp cocktail. Now, that can go on top of the salad. That can go, last night I took the shrimp and I put like some hemp seeds on top. And I already had previously cooked cabbage, had that. Super, super easy. Super, super easy stuff. So that is definitely an option. What I wanted to also talk about, also they have things like quick minute brown rice, quick minute like quinoa stuff. The things you want to look out for those things are usually any additives or sodium or stuff like that. But honestly, if you have the portioned amount of quinoa, the portioned amount of rice, so about a quarter of the plate, so about a fist size full, a quarter of your protein, so that like rotisserie chicken, or that turkey burger, or that tofu or tempeh if you wanted to make that, and then the other half, your mostly vegetables, then the type of rice or quinoa is going to be literally insignificant. That's where portions come and matter so much more. Okay. The other option is doing like a taco night. That's super easy. And you could always buy things that you can buy, like grilled chicken, or, the shrimp cocktail, and like throw that onto, your tacos with some like salsa and guacamole and avocado and stuff like that. So super, super easy stuff. Now, the last thing I definitely wanted to talk about pretty quick is just some equipment that you can purchase that really help expedite the process of things that can really make a big difference. And I think I mentioned this on another podcast before, but definitely crock pot meals. You literally could just take like, some chicken breasts and some, like a can of salsa, and you can add that and just put it on the slow cooker for like 5 hours or whatever. Just like there's so many things you can look up and find. Like Well Every Day is a great website. No, it's not Well Every Day. I always screw this up. What is the website? I always screw this up. Eating Well. Eatingwell.com. That's it. That is the website, eatingwell.com. You can go on there and look for different crock-pot recipes. Investing in an air fryer, I do not have one, but I hear wonderful things. You can put chicken in there. You can put tofu in there. You can put vegetables in there, and it comes out crunchy, but it uses a healthier cooking method. So it tastes like it's fried, but it's not. So it's like French fries, but they're baked. They're using the air fryer. Great option. And a toaster oven, believe it or not. I have a client, she's in college, and she has a toaster oven in her dorm room, and she puts chicken in there, she puts, just about vegetables in there, she puts just about anything in there. Like, you can do a lot with a toaster oven. So don't underestimate how some of these little gadgets, like what they can do for you. I hope I gave you at least a few ideas. I definitely rambled. I definitely talked way longer than I thought I would. But anyways, I hope that you got a lot out of this. If you have any suggestions for future episodes or questions about any of the meal or snack items that I suggested, please don't hesitate to reach out. If you notice, all of these things require a little bit of effort. They require obviously purchasing these things. They require thinking about how I'm going to pair them together. And some of them, they might require you to wash them or take them out of the bag. And some you might actually have to get a pan or a pot out. But it's going to still save you so much time in the long run, okay? So this is just like a sneak peek to one of my modules in my Healthy Livings Foundation course, which I talk about meal prep basics. So if you like this episode, then you're definitely going to love my Healthy Livings Foundation course. And most importantly, you're going to love Module 5 when it talks all about meal prep basics, because I actually talk about more options other than this, and I show you how I've actually prepared them. And even some of my clients, some of their examples of like their meals and their snacks. And it's really so beneficial. So if you have not gone to www.tipswithtony.com/courses, you definitely want to go. I will put the link in the show notes. I've had a really awesome amount of people have enrolled and thoroughly enjoying it. I love hearing the feedback. I love knowing that people are learning and applying. So that's more importantly. So the best part about the course is not only are you going to learn a lot, but you'll also have support of the group and the app that comes with the program, so you can take photos of your food and show them to me and then ask me any questions that you have along the way. That alone, a lot of people find the accountability of just knowing that I'm looking at their food choices. It tends to help them make better choices as a result. So go to www.tipswithtony.com/courses to learn more. If you have any follow-up questions, don't hesitate to reach out. You guys know where to find me. If you're not already subscribed to the podcast, please subscribe. A new episode comes out every Monday and every Wednesday. As always, this is Tony Marinucci, a registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.